This is Road to the Golden Door, where we unpack the proven success formula straight from the minds of Golden Door winners, uncovering the motivation, methods, and the mindset it takes to become an elite performer in door-to-door sales and in life. This is Road to the Golden Door. Now, here's your host, Mikey Lucas.
All right, welcome back. Got another great one here. Another outstanding individual. A good friend of mine now. I actually met you, Jordan, at in a mastermind. And I know that you probably remember this, but I worked for your cousin. My boy Jordan Bastian, welcome to the show.
Excited to be here. Thanks, Mikey.
Yeah, man, this is one I've been looking forward to for a long time. I have seen your success and seen your growth inside of door to door for a very long time now. And your family, to me, is like the Rockefellers. They are very well known and in all of the good ways. I don't know if I can even find a bad thing that I know about the Bastians, other than you guys kick pretty much everybody's butt in all of the competitions. So you probably got a lot of haters.
I'm sure there's some bad things out there. We just tied them really good.
Let's go. Well, cool, man. Just as a reminder, the show is built for Golden Door Award winners. We're talking to the Golden Door Award winner. So tell me a little bit about your story when it comes to door to door. Like who is Jordan Bastian for people that don't know who you are, man?
Yeah, I started selling alarms door to door back in 2007. That was my first summer with Vivint. You mentioned you worked for Cody. Cody's the one that recruited me, both him and Tyler Bastian, to sell alarms for the summer back in 2007. And I distinctly remember, man, the first 3 weeks I got my butt kicked, knocking 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, really long days on Saturdays, and just bagel after bagel after bagel, just nothing, sold nothing for 3 weeks. And, everybody has a breakthrough moment or a breaking moment or a breakthrough moment, right? So I was very close to that point. And it was a small decision probably back then, but looking back, it was a big decision where one of my best friends from high school was getting married. And we were in St. Louis, he's back in Utah. So do I fly home to Utah for the wedding for one of my best buddies? People talk about the hardest door is to get out of your car door or get out of the house. And so I thought to myself, like, if I fly home to Utah, what's the chances I come back? I've sold nothing so far, right? So, I just had a moment. I'm like, I know I'm not coming back if I leave, and I want to stick it out. So I didn't go to the wedding, and I remember Cody telling me, just go make a friend, man. Like, quit feeling the pressure, just go make a friend. One day I sold two. I got that seller's high. Had a few bagels the next 2 days, and then I sold two another day. I was like, whoa. So it started to click. I have an office of 30, 35. I was at the bottom and just slowly clicked and decided to stick it out and just work hard and persistent. So I don't think I was ever really naturally good at sales. I was just really persistent, tried to learn like a sponge, and eventually figured it out, finished in the top 10 of the office that year, my first year. Nothing special, but then sold alarms for the summers up until 2012, and consistently did over 200 back in the day. So that's me. Like, that was a huge decision looking back, because again, if I had gone back for the wedding, I wouldn't be in door to door today probably, because if I didn't go back for that summer, why would I go back the next summer? Most likely, right? Would have probably put a sour taste in my mouth. So super grateful to myself back then that I stuck it out and decided to keep going. Jake, my brother, who I work with now, he was just waiting any day for me to throw in the hat and head home. But luckily I didn't, stuck it out.
How old were you then?
22.
So young 22-year-old Jordan. Were you married then?
No.
Were you dating your wife then or no?
No, meet my wife 5 years later after that. Got married at 27.
So then what was it, because your cousins were in it, your brother was in it? Like, what do you think actually made you stay?
I'm competitive. I like to win. I didn't want to give up. Just kind of have that mentality of never give up. And so Jake was doing well, Tyler's doing well, Cody was doing well. So I wanted to not break the trend. So I decided to stuck it out. I figured I just got to keep going. There's got to be some light at the end of the tunnel. So I feel like, I can relate to those guys the first years that are just barely getting into door to door, because I distinctly remember the feeling of just like, oh man, like this is so hard. I didn't sell anything yesterday or the last week or the last 2 weeks. Like, how am I going to make it work? And so if you just stick it out, if you can, and you guys keep going and slowly develop those skills of overcoming objections at the door, breaking preoccupation, gaining credibility, and making a friend. So finally figured it out and did it for 6 summers.
Awesome. So you did alarm systems. So you're considered an OG in the industry. You
Sure.
were knocking on doors when I was doing 2-a-days. I think my freshman or sophomore year. That was my sophomore year. Sophomore year of high school is when you started knocking on doors, selling alarm systems for Vivint. So then you took off a couple years. You got into solar in 2014, right? So you worked for Vivint. Then you got to Solar City.
Yeah. So my mindset was different back then. It was knocking doors, selling alarms was always a means to an end. Almost like in a had my nose stuck up to it kind of fashion. Like I didn't identify as a professional solar or a professional door knocker, a professional door-to-door salesperson, right? To me, it was like, hey, go make a bunch of money for the summer, go back to school, graduate debt-free, making, 6 figures, and then go get a real job. So, a part of that too was when I did get married, that was my last summer. My wife's the youngest of 6. She's got 2 older brothers who are in private equity, super wealthy. One brother-in-law is an orthopedic surgeon, one's a dentist, one's a finance guy, and the youngest of the family married a door-to-door sales guy. So I'm like, I probably got to go get a real job, right? So I went into equipment financing, still a sales job, just more business to business. Have a $65,000 salary. I got out of it. Cody got into solar. Shout out to him. Guy's amazing. He approached me early 2014. I'm like, no way, man. I'm not getting back into door-to-door to sell solar. I was living in California at the time, about to have our first baby, and just didn't really want to make any life-changing decisions. Looked into it, though. I was like, oh, Solar City, that's a cool company. Elon Musk is cool. His cousin started the company. At the time, Jake went to law school, graduated law school, and then worked for Deloitte doing international tax. He was super bored.
Jake graduated law school.
Jake graduated law school. We did it under accounting undergrad. So Jake's an accountant and a lawyer, doesn't do any of those things. And quit working for Deloitte. And Cody got Jake first to get into solar early in mid-2014, I think.
Do that? Good job.
And Jake kind of had the same mindset as I did. Like, no, I'm solar. Our door-to-door was just more of a means to an end and do something after that. So we kind of viewed solar as more of a career rather than just a summer gig. I was moving to Arizona for the previous job I had, and Jake had just started at Solar City and was about to manage a team. And he's like, hey, you should come manage a sales team with me doing solar. And I had been looking into Solar City and solar previous months, and all of a sudden it just felt super right. Like, yeah, let's do it. So moved to Arizona, started doing solar. I still remember my very first week doing that. I hadn't been in door-to-door for a couple of years, right? So a little bit of rust. And just thinking, oh man, I just moved my family from California to here, and this is hard. Like, how are we going to sell this stuff? I don't get it, because I was just getting rejected all day long. Right, my first day.
2014.
2014.
Yeah, that was back when solar wasn't even solar was definitely a myth back then.
Yeah, right. So working at Solar City, I was hired as a manager with Jake, and some of the higher ups are like, "What? No, we were supposed to save that position for somebody else." So I knew that. So kind of going in, I had a chip on my shoulder and had to prove myself. So I decided, I'm going to go knock 6 days a week every day. Let's go. Now, another big reason too, just to kind of give you my story. So our son was born with a birthmark that took up his whole back. Pretty crazy. And so just had a high percentage of developing skin cancer, melanoma. Yep. And just, it's a big mole. So it's hairy too, right? And just like when he first was born, I was like, what the hell? And so there's options to remove it surgically. And at first it's kind of like, no way, we're not going to do that. And then just as we learn more about it, it's like, yeah, we should probably have it removed. And as we started talking to more doctors and more people with knowledge about it, they all kept pointing to this one dude in Chicago. It's like, we're not flying to Chicago to get this removed. We'll just do it in Arizona. And as we started talking to more and more people about it, then like this guy was like number one in the world for this surgery. It's super rare. So then kind of had a mindset shift of like, why would we not go to this guy in Chicago? So at the time I was like, man, we're going to spend a ton of money doing these surgeries, and I am not going to go into debt, and I'm not going to not be able to provide for my family. So my big goal was I'm going to do whatever it takes to be able to pay for the surgeries, still buy a home, still provide for my family. So I had a massive emotional why and I started selling in August in Arizona. It's 110 degrees outside. And so my mindset was, I didn't freaking care what I had to do. I'm going to accomplish what I need to do. Because I did the math of like, hey, here's what I need to sell to make this much money. Here's how many sales I need to get each month. And so, when the why is strong enough, and you can endure anyhow. So for me, it was huge. Like, I had a bunch of other whys, super competitive. I always had a list of people I wanted to be within the company, within the office. So my mindset was, I'm going to be number one in the office first. And then once I achieve that, I'm going to make a list and people to beat, look at their numbers every day and see who I got to beat. And eventually I'm going to be number one in the door-to-door channel. And so for me, like, I put in a massive amount of effort too, just knocking 6 days a week without fail every day. And my mindset shifted too, where my identity, when you develop habits, you have to have an identity to change that habit. It's easier that way. And I identified as a professional door-to-door solar salesperson. And that made it easier, right? Rather than just like, yeah, because back selling alarms, people would ask, I'm like, oh yeah, I go door-to-door selling alarms, but that's just kind of a temporary thing. Like, oh, when I graduate college, I'll do something different.
Right.
And so I was almost embarrassed about it. We're like, now it's like, to freaking do this is so hard. Like, so many people can't do it. So many people are terrified of it. And so don't be ashamed of it. Like, if you're succeeding in it, like you're in the 1% of those that can, right? So that changed too. Like, I had an identity to develop those habits of, I'm a professional door-to-door salesperson. But yeah, that was the biggest why, just like providing for my son, making sure the surgeries are done, not stop having kids. Like, right. Like, we could have like, okay, we got to take care of these surgeries before we have another kid. So he was 18 months old. We did the first surgery. It's kind of like getting a boob job on your back. He had these sacks of silicone inserted into his back, and we had to fill them up with saline once a week, and they slowly expanded, and it stretched out his skin cells and created new skin cells, and then fly back to Chicago and remove the birthmark and then replace it with some of the skin that was created and then do that over again. So we did 3 rounds of that. So for those during that time, a special period in my life, because like just had such an intense focus and a joint why with my wife, right? So she knew I wasn't getting home till 9 o'clock every night. And she knew I was gone by 12 every day. Saturdays, we had a standing rule. I had to be home by 5. Sometimes I didn't abide by that, but I was out the door by 8 o'clock and home by 5 o'clock. So for me, like, selling solar wasn't like naturally good at it. I just had a massive why and big goals. And so I worked the numbers backwards of, here's what I got to do each month, and here's what I got to do each week, and here's what I got to do each day. It was simple. I tell all our new people, every new hire training, you're in the math business. It's a numbers game. It's simple. And don't focus on the results, even though it's hard not to get emotionally attached to the results. But you got to just focus on the process, focus on the effort. Some days will be really crappy. Some days will be really great. And some weeks will be really great and not so great. You just got to focus on, each day and each week. And the more consistent you are, the more consistent weeks you'll have, and you'll just get better and better and better at it. So for the first, 8 months, I was putting in lots of effort, and I feel like my results weren't there, but I didn't ever decrease. I never took my foot off the gas pedal. So that first, for me, it was like 6 to 8 months, almost learning curve. I mean, I did well. I sold 10 my first month, nothing crazy, but I was getting like 8 to 10 to 12 those first 6 months, but working really hard, thinking I should be getting more than that. And then I remember my breakthrough moment in solar was April of 2014, sold 16, May I sold 21. And then after that, it was just a game to me. I never looked back. So then 2016, the following year was my best year in solar, where I wasn't managing, it was just strictly a sales rep, and sold 273 in 2016 and had over 200 installed. And so it just became I never, even though I got better at it, I never decreased my effort. And so I think that's a problem in the industry is like you can make a lot of money in solar. Guys get complacent, take their foot off the gas pedal, lose momentum, and then they have to like start it over again. Like, don't call timeout on yourself if you have lost a lot of momentum. Just keep going, feed off of that. You only call timeout when you're in a rut or you need to reset. In sports, the other team only calls timeout when the other team has all this momentum going. So don't call timeout on yourself. But yeah, like I had big goals. So even though I had a good week or money was pouring in because I was doing really well, I had big goals to pay for the surgeries, buy a house. We now have 5 kids, so we had to provide for a family. So I never got complacent because I knew like just because I had a really good month or a really good week doesn't mean I can just take my foot off the gas pedal or kind of rest on my laurels or rest on the money that I've made because I had big things to do with it. So, a lot of tender mercies too. They're like this surgeon's number 1 in the world for this surgery because it's super rare. He just happened to be within the insurance that we had during that time at Solar City. And the surgery was considered preventative because of the risk of skin cancer, not elective surgery. So it was covered under insurance. And the last surgery happened like 3 months before the insurance expired because after Solar City got bought by Tesla, they let go of all the door-to-door guys. So you get like 6 months of Cobra insurance, so you can still have the insurance. So it was really cool. Like, I love my time at Solar City. Never have anything bad to say about, that company. And just, you were there. Lots of great people were there. Lots of people that are here at Icon with me now or at Solar City. It's a great company.
Dude,
those that were never there might say otherwise, but
yeah, dude, what's funny? Let's talk about that for a second, and then let's go back to your why, because it's funny. I brought up in the middle of what you were saying that I brought up the notes that I took when you spoke to us at the Circle Sam's Mastermind a couple years back, and I was like, wow, like one of the things that you talked about is similar to this, but you're so consistent and you're saying the exact same way, which means you've engraved this in your head. Let me go back to that really quick. I don't know anybody that's really had a bad experience at Solar City, but there's people outside of the industry that are probably listening to this like, oh, Solar City was so bad. Dude, I had an outstanding experience at Solar City. Yeah, we made 155 a kilowatt or 205 after, bonuses. And I think it was at the most 255 at that one point in Texas for per kilowatt. But like, dude, I had an outstanding time, dude. The culture there was we are here to win, and to sell 8 deals is like, is everything okay, Jordan? Like, are you good? Like 8 deals, like, is there something wrong? Like 2 deals a week?
yeah.
What's up here, man? You're doing 20. You're like, hey man, cool. You're doing pretty good. You selling 30? All right, bro. You're outstanding at what you do. But if you're selling like 8 to 10 deals, you're like, oh man, is everything okay? Like you're on the verge of getting like put on a PIP. Like you're pretty close to like, is everything okay with you? Like this is the easiest product to sell. I think that's very one of the things I learned from Solar City. That yeah, we just it was just we lived in this. We are winners. You're here to change the world. So
Yeah, good culture. I mean, Hayes Barnard, he's the CEO of Good Leap, founder of Good Leap, right? He was pretty much leading the sales force at that time too, man. Like that guy make you run through a brick wall. So culture was great. I would drink in the Kool-Aid for sure.
100%.
Um,
More to Kool-Aid, brother, please.
One thing too that really helped me, like just the consistency. I never, we had those Friday calls for the whole door-to-door sales channel. I love being number 1 on those weeks sometimes.
I'd always see you, bro. I'd always see you.
I didn't really want to hit home runs each day or week even. Like I didn't really want more than 10 sales in a week. That was my best week ever, was 10 sales. Like, which is respectable, but I'm sure there's guys out there that have sold way more than 10 in a week. For me, it was just all about being consistent week in and week out. And so I wasn't always number 1 on the week. I wasn't always number 1 on the month, but I was number 1 on the year every single year I was there, because every week to me was consistent. And come Monday, to me, the mindset was, almost like the NFL, like, okay, you're on to the next opponent. I don't care if I won last week or lost last week. It's a new week. I'm at 0. So it creates urgency, both if you had a crappy week, now you're on the same playing field as everybody else. If you had a great week, you can't stay complacent because now you're at 0. Same with the month. And so for me, like, I set my yearly goal, and almost never really thought about it again, because your yearly goal is really big and really intimidating, right? You set that goal in January and it's like, oh man, that's like really far away and that's really big. But then you got to work backwards of, okay, to hit that, here's what I got to do each month on a monthly basis and on a weekly basis. And for me, like I broke that down, and so I stuck to it every single week of here's what I got to do. But it's like your effort is similar to compound interest, right? If you want X amount of dollars in the bank in 5 years, you can just break it down like, okay, I got to deposit this much money, or an investment account, right? Bank has crappy interest on it. It's not going to make you much money. But every time you deposit money, it's going to have interest. So if you just make the same amount of deposits every single month or every single week, you're going to have more money than what you set your goal out to be. It's the same thing with sales. So whatever your goal is, break it down on a monthly and then weekly basis, and then a daily basis of what you need to do. And I like week better though, because if you said I'm going to do something every single day, you can fail, because there's going to be some days when you won't do it. So it's easier to say I'm going to do this many times each week, whether it's exercising or whether it's knocking doors or whatever you want to be good at. To me, I was always a week to week game, because then at the next week I hit the reset button. Okay, I knocked doors 6 days last week, and now I'm at 0. Got to hit my 6 this week. So it gave me one day to not knock, right? Which for me was Sunday. So I was knocking every day, Monday through Saturday. It was just super consistent, right? So like there was bad days, there was good days, there was bad weeks, there was good weeks, but I had a lot of really good weeks and a lot of really good months because my effort was just consistent regardless of the result. I put in the same effort and the same mindset. And then, so for me, that's when I hit my breakthrough moment and started selling 20 plus a month. I never changed my effort, but I got better because of, to develop any type of skill, you just have to have repetition. So now, 9 years almost later, there's no objection I haven't heard, or there's no question I haven't heard, whether it's solar related, battery related, MPU related. And so I have 9, and I just continue to compound, right? So for me, like I was never like just this amazing natural salesperson. Just it took a lot of effort and a lot of consistency. And to stay consistent, I had to have a really big why. So that'd be my advice to anybody is find out what you have to have a bag of whys, right? You have to have lots of goals, lots of whys. Brian Tracy preaches that the guy who has 100 plus goals or hundreds of goals is going to have more motivation to not give up than the person who has just a handful, right? If it doesn't move you emotionally, then to have that mindset of I'll do whatever it freaking takes, you might give up some days. And then of course, if you're married or you have a spouse or significant other, like you got to make those goals together. Otherwise they'll be bugging you like, hey, come home. So to me, like now the schedule I had back then, I couldn't have today with 5 kids, right? So also, if you're not married or you're married with 1 kid, like work your ass off so that your efforts do compound. So you build up a huge network of people that you've sold solar to. So you can just, not maybe you still work hard, but also work smarter. So, from 2014 to now, I've sold over 1,200 solar accounts. But the most important number is in installs, right? So I had over 900 installs, which is a little over 9 megawatts since been in solar.
Wow. So now you're running. That was some nuggets, bro. That was fire. Go back and rewind that and re-listen to that, because that was fire. So now, Jordan, you're head of sales for Icon Power. You're running 8 teams. How many guys does that consist of? You have 8 teams. Is that 2 managers on each team, 1 manager on each team? How many guys do you directly report to you of those 8 teams?
Most of them have 2. There's 14 that report to me. Most of them have 2. Some of them have 1.
So you're not following the Jesus method. Jesus only had 12. You're doing the 14. You're wild.
Sure.
Love it. I call it the Jesus method, man. How people always ask like, well, how many people should I have on my team? Well, you should really only have about, roughly 10 to 14 or 10 to 12 people, because that's what Jesus did. So,
sure.
And
it's a good rule of thumb. I think, once you're at 20, you got to have somebody else helping. Now we have like a sales leader that's not one of managing an individual team that helps me out too. So like between him and I, we manage the managers, and each team has 2 as well.
You got about 7 then. So then you really got 14, but you're having help too. So you do have the 14 guys, but you got help. So that's they're helping you with that. So Walk me through a day in the life of Jordan Bastian. What does it look like now? I know that you still go out and sell. What does it look like now? I know going from selling an average of probably 16, 17 deals a month, 20 deals a month. You're probably like 18 deals a month is what you're probably at for the consistent over those years. Now what does your life look like? You hit your golden door. What are you at now? And obviously, first of all, you hit multiple golden doors before golden door was even a golden door. So let's just put that straight. You've hit golden door more than the award's been around. You've hit it virtually every year that you've been in door to door up until the point where
20.
you became head of sales.
I mean, I don't know what the alarms was, but in solar, 2015 to 2021.
Oh, dude. Yeah, absolutely. Dude, I saw your name there all the time. I was like, dude, who are these Bastian brothers? I'm like, Cody's cool, but can I talk to Jordan? So tell me, walk me through a day in the life of
Yeah, I mean, I selling solar is my side gig now.
yeah.
So, I'm at the office 8:30, 9 o'clock every day, a couple hundred emails every day, lots of meetings, lots of phone calls with managers, lots of phone calls from the reps to help them out. So
Shoot,
my
I
day to
call all
day
the time.
from 9 to 5 is, helping people out on the teams, having lots of strategy meetings on the operation side with Jake, who's our CEO. And then if I ever do run appointments, it's at the end of the day, like 4:30, 5 o'clock is when I'd go to an appointment and sell the deal. Got to be home typically home before around 6:30, but have to be home before 7 because my wife does not like putting 5 kids to bed by herself. And so when I travel, it's pretty tough. So when I'm in town, I always strive to be home, spend some time with my kids before I put them to bed, and kind of give her like, hey, go do your thing. I'll put them to bed because she's been with them all day, so she's home all day long.
Yeah.
So big, where I'm at today is a big part of her. Like she's a rock star. Again, we got 5 little kids, 8 years and under. So we're in the thick of it right now. It's challenging, super fun. Big part of my why too is to be a good dad. I got boys and girls, so be a good example to my boys and be the type of man that I want my daughter to marry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Daughters.
Yep. Yeah, you got
Yeah.
one of your boys playing. Was he playing football?
Yep. He's the one that had surgery. So he's 8 now. Like his last surgery was like 2017, shortly after we started Icon. So kind of memory in the past, but
Yeah, I love that. All right, so you're running more strategy. I want you to talk about that really quickly. Um, a lot of people reach out to me and they say, Mikey, I'm they pulled it to me. They pulled the flag too quickly. They got off doors. They've started a dealer and they get off doors and they're trying to strategize all the time. And there's not much money coming in and they're not leading from the front. So how do we solve that? Or what is your opinion around that? Obviously I just gave you my opinion on that and I know probably where you stand too, but like the guys that are running dealers or their managers or whatever, I've thankfully for the guys that I coach, I've been able to turn a lot of them around. And now one of them just hit the last three months in a row, #1 rep in this company. But he came from a company that he ran. That it was a family owned roofing company. He got into solar, and he was treating his roofing company, his solar company now, or his solar office as if he was the manager. I mean, the owner. And I'm like, bro, you're not the owner. Like, there's nothing for you to own here. You're not doing payroll. You're
right.
doing nothing. You need to go out and sell. So, what is your advice or what is your take on guys like that? Do you get guys like that they're I mean, if I had Jake and Jordan running the company, I would do nothing other than sell deals all day long because you guys know what we're going through. Like
Yep.
you're like you've done 7 tours to Iraq and Afghanistan equivalent in the door-to-door space. Like you did Vietnam and dude, you've done it all. So you know exactly. I have confidence to go out in the field. I would at least. Do your guys see? I know it's 2 questions, but do your guys see you like that? Do they understand what you've done and what you've accomplished and what you've had to put in?
I mean, the guys that have been with us for a long time have for sure. Because
Cool.
even when we started Solar City or Icon, so I'm sure most people know the story that Tesla pulled the plug on door to door and basically fired 1,000 plus people, and I don't know, there's like 70, 80 offices at that time, right? So we started Icon, and our roles were Jake and I's roles when we first started were similar to Solar City. Like Jake was the regional manager. He'd help on the back end accounts, help guys with their questions, and I was a sales rabbit, right? So go sell. If I'm helping people, they're coming to shadow me. They're shadow me on the door. They'd shadow me in the house. So when we started Icon, it was the exact same way. So our first month of Icon, I went and sold 35 deals. Like super nervous starting a new company and worked like
35 deals.
Kick it up a gear.
People do that in 1 year. You did that in 1 month.
That was my best month. That was my best month ever. Like, starting a new company is nerve wracking, right? So put on the thrusters and put in even more effort than probably had before. But 15 to 20 of those were referrals. So the guys that want to get off the doors is like, man, you got to put in a ton of time and lots of years to build up a good base of a customer base. Well, like I send all my customers Christmas cards every year. Like they know who I am. They all have my number saved. Now, I'm not like, obviously not every single one of them sending referrals, right? So I only go sell when I get referrals from customers. I even get referrals it's not very often, but once in a while, people I sold 6-7 years ago back at Solar City, like, hey, you still selling solar? Like I have this friend who's interested. It's like, yeah, I remember you. And they're like, oh, hey, thanks for your Christmas card. You got a beautiful family. Like it's crazy seeing your family grow. Because we've had 5 kids, right, over the last since we've been selling solar. But like, the book you mentioned earlier before we started, like one of the books, like what good books. The Go Giver is a really good book. I remember reading that for the first time in April of 2015, and just talks about like the 5 levels of success. And one of them says your income is directly tied to the amount of people you serve and how well you serve them. So yeah, put in massive action, sell lots of deals. But my pet peeve with the industry is people sell the deal, they peace out, and we're selling $50,000 to $100,000 loans for solar, right? For 25 years. Like it's a simple sell in the sense that, hey, we're just replacing your electric bill. Let's save you some money. It's a big deal though. And so treat people with give them 5-star service so you can get 5-star reviews and get lots of referrals. Don't just look at them as one customer. Look at them as you give them a good price, good service, good product. I would go turn the system on for them. It's another point of contact. I'd go to the install, go knock around the install, tell them every time when permits are approved, what's next step, go turn on the system for them. Like they will remember you because now you've had tons of text messages, lots of phone calls. And so when someone says that they're interested in solar, they're going to say, you got to call my guy. You got to call my solar guy. I remember too, when we started Icon, someone sent me the referral for the first time. It's like, hey, just so you know, I'm not at Solar City anymore. He's like, I don't care. Like, you're my solar guy. Everybody's got an HVAC guy, a roofing guy, and you're their solar guy. So we started selling, we started Icon early 2017. We were a sales org at that time, had another company, the install. We were just used to pretty, we liked the vertically integrated of working for the same company that sold the deal, installed the deal, maintained and serviced the deal. So as quality wasn't great, referrals stopped coming in, sales reps got frustrated. We and Tesla had, eventually had no salespeople, right? So sales plummeted. We just decided to bring installs in house. And so we cherry picked a lot of the people we knew over at Tesla that were the best at what they do and brought them over to work with us because we had developed good relationships with those people, which takes me, like treat people with respect and treat them well, and it'll go a long way, whether or not you get anything out of it right away. And so, Jake and I have a good reputation of doing what we say we'll do and treating people fairly. And so the people that first came and worked with us, they knew we did right by our sales reps and our customers at Solar City. And so they were excited to come work with us, and started with one crew and slowly grew after that. So where it was Q2 of 2018 where we started to do our own installs so that we could control the customer experience from point of sale to permitting, design, installs, maintenance, service, stuff like that.
I've got your Google reviews pulled up right here. You have a 4.7 star with 194 Google reviews. Bro, that is outstanding.
We need more reviews, but yeah, like some of those are bogus too, but you got to have a few bad ones to make it look
But
legit,
you're A+ rated on the Better Business Bureau. Right? You've got basically a 4-star on Better Business Bureau. I mean, how do you beat? I mean, you talk about reputation. This isn't just like some of these guys that are running dealers. They just come and they go. You guys are running something that's like this is your bloodline right here, dude. You're 5-star rated on Energy Sage. Solar Reviews, you're 4.2. Like, dude, you guys got it.
Yeah, like, our pitch to customers is like, hey, look, we'll make mistakes just like anybody else will, but we'll own it. We'll make it right. If we need to make it right on our dime, we'll make it right. And so, we have rogue sales reps sometimes that make promises they shouldn't have, just like every company has bad apples sometimes, or, our installers will make mistakes just like any company will. Maybe, who knows, maybe there's a disgruntled employee sometimes at any company that can purposely do something wrong. Right. So, but we'll own it because we're the sales company. We install it, we maintain it. We're not some huge nationwide company like a Sunrun or a Titan, but we're growing, and we have good leaders, and we have people that've been with us since the beginning. Jake and I managed a team at Solar City, had a couple of other teams underneath us. So when we started, we had our Phoenix team here, brought on Tucson and Vegas shortly after that. Now we're in Texas and Houston and Florida, and New Mexico's next on the docket for us.
Yeah,
Yeah, just like
I know you guys are in 4 or 5 states now. So say it again. Where are you at right now? Where is Icon installing now with 194 5-star reviews?
so we're in Vegas. We can install in Reno, all of Arizona, so Phoenix, Tucson area, Eastern Arizona, Houston, Austin. We don't really have a presence in Dallas yet, and then Orlando, Tampa area in Florida. We just got licensed for New Mexico, so we have a blitz team that's going there right now.
Awesome. Is there any other? I want to talk about referrals in a little bit, but is there any other books that you recommend?
I think Atomic Habits is one. Psychology of Selling is one. Those are both really good ones. I think Atomic Habits is probably more important, just developing good habits. Like, again, for me, just I almost became a robot. Like, I got to the point where for lunch, Wednesdays I was going to the same spot every day, or Mondays I was going to the same spot. Like, I didn't want decision fatigue. I didn't want to think about what I was doing next. So I had a summer schedule and a winter schedule. Summer gets crazy hot here, so I probably didn't start knocking till like 3 o'clock. And so I tried to have all my appointments in the early afternoon and 7:30 or later. So I was knocking in between, like, because where people get bogged down too is, they might have a really good week or really good month, and they have tons of sales, but then they didn't focus on prospecting, so their pipeline dried up, and now they're back at square one because they're focusing on trying to get all their installs or all their jobs pushed to install, right? So to me, like, there's a ton of, you mentioned that training. I still give that training. I still have that same deck. Like, there's a ton of things you got to do. There's a ton of things you have to do to be a top performer. And to me, there's everything else, and then there's knocking. Like, you can't, right? Like, you have to protect it. It's like sacred time. So when I'm out knocking, like, all my appointments were set early afternoon or later in the evening. Because I know myself too, like, and this is for everybody, it's a mental game, right? So if you're having a really crappy day, you want to go home. But, sure. And I purposely knocked about 45 to 50 minutes away from my house, because at 5 o'clock, if I want to go home, I'd have to sit in an hour plus worth of traffic. But if I also have an appointment at 7:30, it's like, well, I got 2 hours left. Worst case scenario, I knock and don't set any appointments, right? So bunker down, just go freaking work your butt off, and then eventually you go home. So I purposely set, you mentioned life hacks earlier, like, set your appointments early in the afternoon or late morning. Whatever you have to do, doctor's appointments, eye appointments, change your oil, groceries, errands, like, do all that crap in the morning. And then for me, it was at 12 o'clock, I'm doing emails, responding to customers, calling referrals, travel time. And I was either on the door in the winter months. I had to knock earlier because it got dark so early. But now I've changed my mind. You can knock past dark. Knocking in the dark is great because you can find who's home. All the lights are on. If the lights are off, don't go knock that door, right? Super easy now. But I just had very consistent hours of when I was running deals. And my ideal day was run an appointment in the early afternoon, get a sale. Now you got that seller's high. You're feeling really good. You have good energy. Go knock for 3 to 4 hours. Go set 3 to 4 appointments for the later days. I never did same days ever. Like, to me, I wanted to sit down with them for a solid hour and a half, make sure they were comfortable with it. And if it's 5 o'clock, I could go set 2 or 3 or 4 appointments within an hour and a half to 2 hours. So why would I go sit in someone's home at 5 o'clock when I could just push it back to 7:30 and go knock from 5 to 7:30 and then go sit down and get a sale? So, my favorite quote that I always repeat is like, life's a game of inches. And when you add up all the inches, that's what makes a difference between winning and losing. So having really good routines, like I had the same routine. I got off the freeway, went to a QT, used the bathroom, got water, had a mug of ice. I'm on the doors. I didn't want to leave. The worst is getting on the doors, and then an hour and a half later, you have to go pee. It's like, got to get back in your car, go find somewhere that has a bathroom that's public, and then go back and get to your area. Another thing too is it's like planning out where you're going to knock, because another tendency dollar knockers have is just they'll drive around looking for that great area or that great street where people are home. And you'll just waste 45 minutes to an hour. And finally, then you'll park and you'll look on Instagram or Facebook for another half hour. And all of a sudden now you just wasted 2 hours.
Oh, dang
So
it. Jimmy installed a deal over here 2 years ago. I can't be in this neighborhood. I got to go across the town.
So like night before, figure out the exact door you're going to knock and what time you're going to knock it. And, figure out travel time. If it's again, I would leave an hour before I wanted to be on the door so that I could, travel, count for traffic, hit the gas station, use the bathroom, get my water, and not stop for 3 to 4 hours. Now, what's not like every summer selling alarms, I got burnt out. Like come August, man, I was done. And I've never gotten burnt out doing solar just because of the schedule I had for myself. I wasn't knocking 8 hours a day. I was knocking every day, probably 5 hours at the most, but it was just every day. Some days it was less because I had too many appointments. And like, even if I wanted to take a day off, it was hard because if I'm knocking every single day, I have appointments every single day. And it's like, well, I just drove out here an hour to get to my area. I'm here. I might as well just keep knocking. And then it becomes fun. It becomes a game. Obviously there's bad days, but it's like and you don't have to worry about money. Like if you have a big why, big goals, like you never worry about money because the money's going to come. Focus on winning. Like all the greatest athletes of all time, they wanted big contracts, but once their contract was signed, like they wanted to win, and they got big checks and big money because they were focused on winning and putting in the time. Like I hated Kobe when he was a player, but man, listening to his content now, like he's the master of discipline, consistency. He's doing 3 to 4 workouts a day in the off season, and over time that just compounds, and that's why he became the greatest player at his time. MJ's the GOAT, but I think Kobe was the best when he was playing, and he tried to replicate Michael Jordan. But there's a book by Alan Stein called Raise Your Game, or I think that's what it's called. But he went to a workout with Kobe, and Kobe said 4:00, and he's like, "Well, don't we have something at this time?" He's like, "No, 4 a.m." So he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna show Kobe like how cool I am. I'm gonna show up at 3:30." So he showed up at the gym at 3:30, and Kobe was already in there. And he was doing drills with no ball, just like foot drills. And he's like, "Kobe, like you're the greatest player in the world right now. Like, what are you doing these basic drills?" And he kind of gave him a smirk and said, like, "Why do you think I'm the greatest player in the world? Like, I never get tired of doing the basics." And so I think kind of almost going back to your question is like, people want to start their own company or own the business, but you got to be able to do the basics. And the reason Jake and I were a good team because Jake didn't go sell. Like Jake was done selling. Like he ran the business. And so I was a sales rabbit. I went and sold a lot, trained guys on the doors, because it's hard to be on the doors selling and then do payroll and run the business and make sure we got enough inventory, make sure we got enough money in the bank and stuff like that. So that's why I'm head of sales and Jake's CEO, because we still help each other on both sides, right? Like Jake's still intertwined and he's on all the sales manager calls. And Jake could be like he could have been a beast on the doors, and he sold alarms for 7 summers just like I did too, and did really well at Silver City. And then our roles changed and he became more of the back end manager, and I was a sales rabbit. So he's smarter than I am. Dude has an undergrad at BYU in accounting and went to law school. So we have our strengths.
Jake's a great dude. Jake's an outstanding dude. Sometimes I'm like, who do I want to talk to, Jordan or Jake? I'm like, depends on how I feel right now. Sometimes I just call Jake, and I'm like, let's get straight to the point. Or I'll call Jordan. We'll have an actual conversation. Jake's like, here's the answer. I'm like, all right, thanks. Jordan, I'm like, let's talk for a second, bro. How you doing?
Yeah, we're both busy, but he takes a second shift after his kids go to bed.
I bet. Or I can call you because I'm like, hey, Jake's too busy, so I'm going to call Jordan and get a hold of Jake. I love that. All right, dude. So Tell me a little about, people don't know about this. People that have not been in solar for very long don't remember 2015. What happened in 2014 in Arizona? So this is a really, everyone's talking about this with, I think, California right now with NEM3 and all that. So why don't we talk about your first like 3 or 4 months into solar? What happened
Sure.
with the power
I
company?
mean, so I'm in the Phoenix area, and there's two major utilities here. 4 months after I started, basically one of them shut down for solar wise, called SRP. They just changed the rules as far as how they would, credit people who send power back to the grid. And at Solar City at the time, so Solar City sued them. So you technically could sell solar. We sell SRP all the time now, and the rules and the net metering rules are the exact same as they were back in 2015. It's just adapting, right? I live in SRP. I have solar, have battery on my house. By the way, if you own a house and you're in solar, like you don't have solar in your house, what are you doing? If you rent a house, you an apartment, obviously different story. Like make enough money, go buy a house, put solar in your home. Like every guy that sells solar should have that goal. Buy your own home. Grant Cardone will tell you not to, but buy your own home and put solar on your own house so you can tell people like, hey, look, here's my app. Here's my bill before solar.
Yeah,
Like
here's
super
my
easy.
app. Exactly.
Right. So, but yeah, like they shut down half the valley. Like we were selling, my office and Jake's office is already in APS territory, which is why I was driving 45, 50 minutes away. But it shut down half the valley, so it condensed to where we could sell. So APS area, which is where we are, got super competitive, got hammered, and so that's why I was already selling. So it didn't really affect me as much, other than it got more crowded where everybody else was knocking. Because even at Solar City, we had, I think, 3 offices within the Phoenix Valley, and 2 of them were like, one was mainly SRP in the East Valley, and the other one was too. So now it was three offices all in APS territory. So we had to kind of like divvy up our area. We had a very specific area for our office, and the other teams had their offices, and then we had ours. So yeah, now we do like once we started Icon and realized like you can sell SRP. It's just different. You have to treat it differently and do it right. It's probably like one of the most complicated utilities to sell solar in. There's lots of people doing it the wrong way, but it still works out.
Facts.
I don't know much about NEM3. I know it's different. I mean, they're already saving a buttload in California. I
Right.
imagine, even if it, there's lots of people in the Midwest and Texas and in the East Valley here in SRP that really aren't saving money. So they try to sell more on value, sell them on. They obviously got to be interested in solar, but then you got to sell them on you, and you got to sell them on the company that you're working with, that to trust you, believe that you're the expert in this subject, and give them a good experience. Like figure out all the knowledge about the utility, like the utility rates here in the Phoenix area. Like I have memorized. Like you can name a rate plan, I can tell you the exact rate per kilowatt hour, both on peak, off peak, what the rates are. And so like going to meet with customers without looking at their website, I'll tell them like, here's the exact rates, here's the exact plan you should be on. And that's something that kind of separates you from the pack, is if like your knowledge as a solar expert, but not overcomplicating it and still keeping it simple. Because one thing I see a lot too is guys will come into the solar industry, they'll do super well because they're naive and they don't know everything, and so they don't spit everything out and just throw up all their knowledge that they know. Then as they start learning new stuff, whether it's on the door or in the house, they just want to throw up everything that they know, and they confuse people or just overcomplicate it, when you still just got to keep it super simple and make it simple in their minds, even though it is, again, it's a big ticket item, which is why the commission is so great and the opportunity is so great. And there's really no reason to lie. Like solar can sell itself. People are interested. They want clean energy. They want to save money. They want tax credits. Want to control and own their own power. It's like, it's great. Like to me, there's no better opportunity on a sales position than being in the solar industry. You got lots of tailwinds.
What is the what's like the purpose statement or mission statement, if you will, of Icon Power?
Good question. Our why as a company is to improve lives. So Simon Sinek has a book. That's another really good book. Back to your question on that. So everybody knows what they do, and some people know how they do it, but few people know why they do it. And so when we have a new hire orientation call, I run that call for the sell side. And the first thing we start with why. So the what we do is sell solar. The how we do it, right, is save them money on electricity, help them pay less for money in taxes. But our why is to improve lives, not just our customers though, right? So of course we want to improve the lives of our customers. That's just one part of it. We want Icon to be like the awesome place to work. So we want to improve the lives of our employees, installers, salespeople. So people that are coming in, we want them to have the mindset of improving their own lives, being in a better situation than when they are yesterday or last time, whether you're here for a week or a decade. And same, we want our customer situation to be better than it was. And if you can't improve their situation based off their goals are, then you should sell that customer. But also improve the lives of people outside the organization. So try and find ways to do charity work. You know, we have events as a team to go like do small things like packaging food for Feed My Starving Children. You know, our biggest thing we do probably is partnering with Give Power, like a lot of solar companies do now. I will say we were the very first Give partner with Give Power. So everyone that was Solar City knows, you know, the Give Power. You sold a megawatt of solar, you got a plaque of solar donated to a school, right? Which is super cool. Got a few of those. And we knew the people running Give Power pretty well, so they approached us to be a Give partner. So we donate money for every single install that we do here in the States, like a lot of other solar companies do. And then a couple times a year, we send 10 people on a trek with Give Power to build a solar system for people in a village or a school that have no access to electricity. So last year in 2021 was the first time we did it in August. We took a team. I had the chance to go into Colombia, super eye-opening. It was awesome to see, like, because we've been talking about Give Power since the early days of Solar City, and it was just awesome to see like how it really impacted them. Like it's 2022 or 2021, and people still they didn't have fridges, they didn't have freezers, they had no TV, no Wi-Fi. So you know, having electricity for their school is what it was for the village. Now they could have a freezer and fridge to store leftover food. They could feed the kids twice a month or twice a day. So the attendance for those schools and those villages just skyrockets because they can get fed. Now they have a TV, they have Wi-Fi, they can learn. Just crazy how like things we take for granted. So it's super eye-opening. But yeah, so improve lives is our why, is our mission statement. Our customers, employees, salespeople, and people outside the organization. Like just be better than you were yesterday and just try and improve 0.01% each day, each week.
How do you feel you're actually doing with that right now?
You know, we didn't like after we read that book is kind of where we like articulated what our why is a company. I think we're doing great at it. Like we have a self-development group. We read a book every month. We do a challenge every month. This month we read Living with a SEAL by Jesse Itzler. We had David Goggins. The book is wild. It talks about all the crazy workouts he did. And the challenge of the month was take 10 60-second cold showers. So just be comfortable, be comfortable being uncomfortable. I followed what's his bucket on Instagram, Wim Hof. So he had a 60-second, 60-day challenge going, 60-second cold showers for 60 days. So I'm in day 30 today. So I went every day and doing some ice baths every week too. So be comfortable being in. So yeah, like just finding ways. Now, not everybody participates, right? Some people, they're good within our company, even though that's our mindset as a company. We want people to get better, and some people are comfortable where they're at, and we can't force them. You can just can't lead a horse. You can lead a horse to water, just can't force them to drink it, right?
Sure. I love that. So improve lives. I love that. I love that it's something that it's not what you do. It's why you're doing what you're doing. I love that you said that. So
yeah, so that's the why. And how do we improve customers' lives? Like, well, we help them pay less money for electricity, help them own their power, help them pay less money in taxes. And the solar is the what? That's the vehicle, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, when anyone in solar, it's like, hey, what do you do? Of course, the natural is, well, I sell solar. That's the easy answer. It's like, well, I help people pay less money for electricity. I help people pay less money for taxes. And the what it is the vehicle for that is solar. Yeah. And I make a really healthy living for my family. And, you know, for me, like I remember Door to Door Con Ed Milet. I show Ed Milet's video like every new hire. It's like, I want to be the one for my family that changed the financial freedom for our family and have that shift.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. I've watched that video, dude, 2,000, probably 2,500 times now. It's my go-to. He's on point. I actually joined Arate because of it as well after that. So I've joined his mastermind. He's just on point.
Yeah, he's got great stuff.
I learned so much from him. So you talk about mindset a lot. You said you've mentioned mindset shift a lot. Tell me, let's talk to a struggling Golden Door Award winner right now. They've just got their year started, or middle of the year, and I don't want to say they're in a slump, but they're kind of in a little bit of a downturn. Maybe something personal in life has happened. Maybe they're a death in the family, or an illness or something like that, or something along those lines. And what does Jordan do in that situation? I mean, you got 5 kids, major family. What does Jordan do in that situation? How do you get out of that?
I don't know that you can get out of it so quickly. We just have to remember, like, hey, like, this too shall pass. Both the good times and the bad times. Like, this too shall pass. Some might take longer than others. With my son's surgery, is like, that was a 2-year thing for us, and we were just super focused. And so it's kind of changed almost changed my outlook on how trials and challenges pop up. Because had I not needed to make a lot of money really quickly, like, my wife was working at the time too, making 6 figures, like, we were doing well, but I don't know that I would have gotten to solar. And even if I did get into solar, like, again, I was good at selling alarms. I was really good. It wasn't great. I became really, really good in the elite, in the top 1% of selling solar, because I had a huge why that just, again, if you have big enough, strong enough why, you can endure anyhow. Another thing too is, like, if you're in a rut, like, see how you can help other people. I think one quote I love, or at least saying, is by helping other people get what they get, they'll help you get what you want. So, my big why in solar, like, solar changed my life financially. So my big why is to help as many people as I can in the solar industry to be successful in it, because it's changed my life, and I see what it's done for me, for my family. And I'm a different person than I was 8-9 years ago, which is good, right? You should be growing intentionally. Yeah. Yeah, man, like, just going back to your question, just keep pushing through, because eventually it's going to pass. But don't give up. Look at it, and you have to change your mindset of, like, hey, like, I don't know why I'm going through this, but buck up. And again, like, everyone's challenges are different. And, like, I have a friend whose son had brain surgery like 3 or 4 months ago. So, like, comparatively to my kid going to back surgery, it's like nothing, right? But, like, he's dealing with that, and I'm dealing with other things. So help other people, regardless of what you're going through. Try and find ways to help others, and that'll make you feel better about yourself. And just be consistent. Try not to get too unbalanced. I think at that mastermind training I did was talking about, like, what's really important to you. And I kind of talked about not getting too unbalanced, because there's work, there's family, there's spiritually, there's financial. Like, you got to focus on a lot of things as a mom or a dad when you're working. And everybody would say, what's the most important thing to you? Most people are going to say your family, right? But you're not spending 50, 60 hours a week with your family like you are putting on your job, probably. So just each week, take a look at the week, review, like, where am I spending my time? Another great book is How You Measure Life by Clayton Christensen. And in chapter 4 is where I kind of got that training from. It's like, your strategy is not what you say it is. You might say that family is the most important thing to you, but when you're with your family, are you present? Like, that's a huge thing I'm working on, because I get home from work, I'm eating food, and I'm just, like, returning emails and texts, and I got 5 monkeys running around, right? So a quote I love by Ed Milet was, like, be where your feet are, like, be where you're at, like, be present. When you're at work, be at work. When you're at home, be at home. And I think knocking doors too is tough mentally, because if you have to compartmentalize whatever you got going on. I love that word, compartmentalize. Like, put it in a little box in your brain and put it to the side, and go focus on knocking doors. And then when you're done, okay, then you can put it back into your life and focus on what you need to focus on. Because it is so mental that if you're thinking about what you have going on in life, if you're just going through the motions on the doors, you're probably not going to be successful. You have to be intentional about what you're saying, what you're doing. You don't know the doors that they're going to say yes. You can only control your mindset your attitude, your work ethic. When people piss me off or yell at me, as soon as I'm off their property, they're out of my head. Like I make it a game and I want to win. If I hate that person, if I think about them all day long about what a dick they are, they won. They're not going to feel my hatred. They're not going to feel my anger. I'm the only one that's going to feel that. So as soon as I'm off their property, I'm out. Or they're in my rear view. Because it can ruin your day. Like you don't want to take their negative energy with you to the next door because people can feel that. And if I did get pissed off, I just smile. And that can kind of help relax you a little bit and just move on, right? Like, because that's what's hard about knocking doors is people can yell at you, like you're bugging them at their house. You don't know what they're going through. I mean, if you're going through your own shit, I'm sure they're going through some too, right? Like maybe they got 5 kids that's screaming at them, and like you were the last straw.
Yeah, you're the easy one to take it out on.
Right. As a parent, anyone with kids knows that your kids can get you to that breaking point, and then all of a sudden you explode and maybe scream at them. So that's something I'm working on too, is make sure that take a deep breath because they remember stuff like that.
I like that you said. I like that you said to smile. That one.
Even if you're just on the phone too, like if you're cold calling on the phone, like smile. They can feel it. Now everyone's door pitch is different. I'm like I have a really good resting pitch face. Like people look at me and they don't know me, and I'm not smiling all the time. They just think I'm pissed off all the time or an angry person, but I'm really not. But I almost kind of use that on the doors. Like on the doors, I'm very like non-emotional, very monotone. And so when I make a very dry sense of humor joke, it kind of catches them off guard. And I'll say things, we talk about, hey, there's no upfront cost for the solar, right? And they're like, well, what's the catch? I'm like, well, the catch is you got to babysit my 5 kids once a month. And they'll like chuckle at it and then like breaks the ice. So, or like, well, the catch is you just got to cook dinner for my family once a month or something stupid like that, right? Just some stupid joke that hopefully can break down their walls. And then once they laugh, it's like, it's an easier conversation because everybody feels better when they laugh, right? It relaxes you, kind of brings down your shields, your defense a little bit. So,
yeah. All right, let me transition a little bit. I appreciate you sharing all that.
Yeah.
I love your speech so much. I studied it after. One of the things that I wrote down that really stood out to me was instead of being balanced, strive for not being too unbalanced. And that was something that really stood out. The second thing that stood out to me was have more sex. So let me transition into your family life, because this is something that's really near and dear to me right now. I know it's like funny, but the one of the biggest things that I'm going to continue to bring up and will always talk about is keeping the family unit together. As an American patriot, as an entrepreneur, as now a fund manager. I'm a major, in the private equity field. Like I am somebody that is responsible for making sure that I help men stick in the house. Otherwise, we're going to lose our country, like Andy Frisella says all the time. If we don't get our men to be men again, I'm not saying like not to have a feminine trait or whatever about you. I'm saying like, no, the man needs to be somebody that once you decide to be married, you have decided, and to solve those problems within your family and be the dad that you should be and can be, and to go and solve the problem if you're not the best one, and to go ask for help. A man asks for help. A man is not somebody that, I've got it all together. No, a man actually knows when they need help and asks for it. So let's talk about marriage really quick. This is something that for a very long time, I saw guys like you. I saw guys like Adam Harper that had 10 kids basically. Like you guys had like 6, 4, 5, 6 kids at a time. And I'm like, how am I struggling when I don't even have a girlfriend? And my top month, I think I did 17 deals. I know I did 17 deals. I'm having a hard time managing that. And I don't do anything outside of this other than go to the gym. Like, how do I have 5 kids, which I desire to have that. I want to be able to multiply and have 4, 5, 6 kids in theory, God willing, let's talk about the family life really quick, Jordan, because I know that you're a big, you're a big, advocate for being in the home. I mean, you still sell that much and you're at home at 7:00. Like, I'm like, dude, like Okay, so let me just give you one tip that I just or one like insight to Mikey Lucas's now day. Okay, I just stopped all meetings from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock because when my wife gets off work, I need to be there. I'm realizing that, and I'm actually testing this. So if she watches this, whatever, I'm testing this right now because our relationship is great. We just got married, but I'm testing this. Like I'm trying to figure out if when she gets home, if I'm super attentive to her as soon as she gets home from work, if that's going to make our relationship better or make our relationship stay the same or make it go down. Quality, right? And I'm thinking that it's going to make it go up. So I'm testing it right now. I've been doing it for the last, like, I don't know, not even a week now, not even a week and a half, barely. So I've got no meetings scheduled for the moment that she gets home to an hour after, and I'm there, like I'll, the whatever. I'm just there with her. So this is near and dear to my heart, and I've asked you questions 2 years ago about this, and I know that you're really big on being a great dad, but also being a great husband, setting an example. That's something I've written down in my notebook, to be the man today and tomorrow that my daughter Sophia will want to emulate or to want to marry, to set the example for that. So that's something that's near and dear to my heart as well. So tell me, how did you, and I wrote down earlier that, to get your wife on board with, your goals. So why don't you walk me through that? Like with the guys that are the Golden Door guys that they're struggling, or the girls that are struggling with getting their significant other on board. Or maybe they do have it on board. Maybe they're on board, but let's talk about the family thing for a little while if we can.
Sure. I mean, like
And sex.
you have to treat this job as if it's like your own business, right? So if you're an entrepreneur just starting a company, you're not clocking in at 9 and clocking out at 5, probably. Otherwise, the business is going to fail, right? But you do need a consistent schedule, and my schedule has been changed over the years. Back in Solar City, I was waking up at like 8 o'clock. I go to the gym. I go home, spend some time with my kid because I only had one at the time when I first started. Then I had two, and so again, all my morning time was family time. So it was okay that I got home at 9 o'clock because my kids were asleep by that point, but I was with them in the morning. And then when we started Icon, and as I was an owner, but like you mentioned, like what did you own? Like we were the owners of Icon, but you still had to make it work. So my job was go get lots of sales. I don't make commission on my sales. It just money just goes back in the company to help us grow. And so my schedule has adjusted, right? Like the more kids you have, the less free time you have. So I can't wake up at 8 o'clock and just head to the gym anymore. I have to wake up at 5:30 if I want to exercise that day. So my bedtime schedule is adjusted, my wake up time's adjusted, and I kind of have my day down like Monday through Friday. It's very like I don't have a lot of time at home in the morning, and I don't have a lot of home time at night. So when I am there, I have to be super present. I get home at 6:30. My kids go to bed at 8:30. Like I get that hour and a half to 2 hour window with them, and I'm the one that helps them get into bed and help put them to sleep, and I'm there at bedtime. And so quality over quantity, I think, is important as a dad, right? Like they don't need 5 hours a day of your time. 5 hours a day of just sitting and watching TV doing nothing, like compared to 1 hour of like being present, talking to them, playing games with them, trying to put your phone away. Like that's, to me, that quality time is better than the amount of time you spend with them. I drive my two older boys to school. So that's only 20 minutes, but that's time that I just get to talk to them. It's just the three of us in the car, right? And then I head to the office. And if I do have an appointment to sell, it's always at the same time. It's at 4 o'clock-ish. Take an hour and a half to get it done. So 4 to 4:30, and then I'm home between 6:30 and 7 o'clock, depending on where that's at. But for the spouse, I think too, it's all about expectations. Like my wife would get pissed when I told her I'd be home at 7 and I get home at 9 because she was expecting me at 7, and now it's 2 hours later, right? So we share a calendar, share the plan for the week. Here's my schedule, and even every day now she asks, "Hey, when are you gonna be home?" It's just all about like telling her the right time and being home when I do get home, so she knows how long she's got to hold things together for that time. Well, it's just her and the kids, and we do have a babysitter that comes here and there to help her out so she can actually have some alone time, because I think that's super important for for a mom that does have young kids. It's really important for them to have their me time. That's why I like exercising. To me, exercising, like, physical fitness is the bonus of exercising. Like, the mental aspect and the mental benefits from exercising is more important to me than the physical benefits. Just having that just you time, it's just you in the gym. So, and just having, like, getting on the same page of, like, here's the why we want to accomplish the goals. Why do we need lots of money? What are you gonna do with it? In the book we just read this month, Jesse Itzler, and he mentioned this too at the Door to Door Con when he came and spoke at Sam's event. Money just magnifies who you are. So if you're a dick and you get lots of money, you're going to be even a bigger one. If you're a good person and you get lots of money, you're just going to be an even better person. And he said money is really fun to make, to spend, and to give away. So to me, like, I want to make a shitload of money for me and my family, but also to help other people, to have the things we want, to need, but also to give away eventually too, and help others that are in need. And it's almost hard sometimes to find people. There's tons of people out there that need help, right? But it's hard to find them. So within our church, we seek out people to help, especially around Christmas time, Thanksgiving time. And then it's kind of like aligns with our why at Icon, just to improve lives and trying to be a good person. And we're all flawed, but trying to find ways to even do better. But I don't know, I kind of rambled on, but hopefully that answers your question of, like, how do you get your spouse on board, or your significant other, as far as your goals go, is find out what you want to achieve together, right? So, like, for me, selling, I tell my wife often,
walk me through that. Walk me through that. Like, what, like, if you're, because this is something that I with a lot of the coaching guys that I have, same concept, young, married. It's not hard, but I do notice that most of them don't have their wives super on board with the long-term game. So, and maybe that's why they come to me, because they're trying to invent their exit, which is one of the taglines that I have. It's like, yeah, the top 1% solar pros inventing their exit. So maybe that's why they come to me for that, but they're not, I see that they're not building their exit. It is more kind of fly by the skin, the edge of your seat, kind of, with their wives. So walk me through that. Like, what do those conversations look like? Is there backlash? Like, is there pushback? Like, is it, do you feel like, it's only your goals? Like, what if she's not on board? Like, how does that even work?
I mean, early on, it was super easy, right? Because we had our son to provide for, and we didn't know. I mean, we still spent a lot of money, but we didn't know at the time that insurance was going to cover some of those surgeries. So, like, again, looking back, that was a super hard time, but also a really special time in our lives, where, like, we were just very aligned and very focused on one specific thing. We were one, right? We were on the same team.
Yeah.
And so that kind of helped us realize, like, hey, if you have a big why and you're on the same team, like, because her job's hard too. Like, I tell her all the time, like, I couldn't do what she does, and she couldn't do what I do. Like, what she does is not more important than what I do.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, we have to be equal. Now, some of it, like, from the competitive standpoint, is for me. I love winning, right? Like, I wanted to be number one. And so that's what I focused on, and the money came. But again, like, what are you going to do with the money? Well, we need to buy a home. We were renting at the time when I first started. Okay, we need to have surgery. We need to have, like, everything's expensive and everything's just going up. So, like, to have financial freedom, you see all the time on social media, like, financial freedom is the new flex, right? It's like to have that and not have to worry about asking for advances or living paycheck to paycheck. So Jake has a funny saying, like, just because you make more doesn't mean you need to spend more. That's how you go poor. Vince Young and Allen Iverson made hundreds of millions of dollars and went bankrupt, right?
Kurt Schilling, bankrupt. Mike Tyson, bankrupt.
Like, okay, you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Cool. Like, that's not that much. Like, be smart. You don't need to, like, cool, buy the cool things you want that are going to motivate you to do even better, because that can be helpful for sure. Or, like, I drive a Model X Tesla, expensive car, like, little fun thing that I like. I'm not a car guy, but that's a car I really wanted. Other than that, like, I try to spend as least amount of money as possible, not be, like, frugal, but I buy what I want to buy. But you don't need to be crazy flashy or buy a Lamborghini. Or, again, if you're single, you don't realize what the next years are going to come, right? So I think my message to them would be like, save your money because you eventually will get married. It's different, right? Like I remember selling when I was single, like it's hard to imagine being married and having kids because it seems like it's so far away. It just seems like a foreign job. So, but looking back, it's like, man, I wish I would have saved more. I wish I would have invested more because it compounds over time. But man, as a single kid making $100,000, like that's why NFL players and professional athletes, it kind of goes to their head and things go wild because they just all of a sudden go from making nothing to having millions of dollars and not knowing what to do with it.
Yeah.
I think the same thing happens on a smaller degree with well, there doesn't matter what type of sell you're doing in pest control or alarms, like you can make really good money. Save it, invest it, buy a home, buy rental properties, be smart with it, and of course, buy the stuff that you want to buy. But you don't need to be flashy with it.
I love that. Yeah, that was something that I really I don't want to say I struggled with, but we struggled with in the beginning of our relationship because my understanding of money was different than most people. I'm a very just like you, man. I don't do. I mean, I am into cars, but I'm not into like Ferraris and Lamborghinis. I think they're great cars. I've driven them, rented them. They're fun. But my Model X was like the thing. Like that was like I had to have that car. Um, I've been a big promoter of living under your means. The 80-20 rule: live off of 20, invest the 80.
Yep.
It really does bug me that guys and girls come in a door to door and they make all this money and they got nothing to show for it.
And then you're 1099 and it comes to pay taxes. You're like, oh, frick, I don't have enough money to pay taxes. It's like, well, dude, like you didn't plan for that. Come
It's the
on.
reason. It's the reason why that March is the slowest month. Is not because people don't buy in March. It's because they're so afraid of the IRS gangsters coming after you, which now especially they will. So yeah, get your money right. Hit up Mikey Lucas for that. I got you on that. Yeah. So with your wife, go ahead.
I was going to say another quote I say to myself, another is like, do something today that your future self will thank you for. Like that's a lot. Like out knocking the doors, like, hey, like it sucks to knock, but I want to get sales tomorrow and the next day. I want to have a pipeline. So I got to go put in the work now. And everybody wants to sell. There's that cheesy saying where like everybody wants to eat, but nobody wants to hunt. So you got to go hunt. You got to go eat what you kill. And once you get that sale, it's amazing, right? But you got to remember it was the you before 2 days ago or last week that set the appointment. It was
Right.
you that was in that mindset that went and set the appointment, went and knocked the door. And so just kind of remember like, hey, here's where I want, and don't make decisions based off how you feel. Make decisions based on how you want to feel. Like everybody likes exercising, the feeling after you're exercising, right? I hate waking up early to go to the gym. I would really like to sleep in till 8 o'clock and go exercise at that point. But if I sleep in, I'm not going, right? Like my time is already full for the rest of the day. So when I make that decision of whether I hit the snooze button or go exercise, I love the feeling after exercising, and I hate it when I hit the snooze button and regret. Tim, man, just Michael Jordan's trainer, just Tim Grover says, you think the bill for success is tough, is expensive. Wait till you get the bill for regret, right? Something along those lines. So, especially if you're younger or single, you don't have kids yet, like put in the time early and often so that because your time is going to get more limited and you have to get better and better at your craft. Like if you want your number of sales to stay the same and you're spending less time, like you have to have a really good skill set to stay at that level. But you also have to sacrifice things. Like, to be honest, outside of work and my family, I don't do much else. I have a softball team that Jake and Ryan are on. Like, so there's some of my friends. I go on a yearly trip with my buddies from high school. Other than that, it's work and family. And I'm a golf nerd, so anytime I can, I love to go golfing. But it's hard because I have to go golfing during work hours. Saturdays and Sundays are restricted from golfing now. I'm already gone 60 hours a week, and to try and go out for 5 hours during a weekend, like that's a non-starter.
Dude, I'm going to talk about that really quick. So I want to talk about golfing, but I'll get back to the family thing here in a second. I love when I see you on the golf course. It's not often. I think it's like maybe a couple times a year that I see it. But when I see you there, I know how hard you work, Jordan. I know, I can see it. I've witnessed it. But when I see you on the golf course, I'm like, dude, look at Jordan. Like he made it. Like he was able to go to the like I know how your passion for golf, and to see you out there is like, oh, dude, like he's winning. Good job, bro. Like I get encouraged when I see you on the golf course. That might sound weird, but like I'm like, dude, that means like, because I'm in the same boat. I'm like, bro, I want to, man, I want to do something else other than run these 4 companies and about to be 5 here. But it's cool to be able to see when you're out there. And I know your brother works just as hard, dude. Yin and yang, bro. You guys are absolute beasts. It is cool to see Jake's face when he's not in the office. He's probably still thinking about work, but it's cool to see when you guys are there. And like, I just could tell that you guys are competitive. And I eventually want to come out and golf with you guys one of these days. So I'll make sure we'll
Yeah,
go golf.
Jake and I are very nonchalant, have a great relationship. We live next door to each other.
Oh, no way. Are you serious?
When we get on the golf course, though, like it gets heated sometimes. We're both golf nerds. When we're not golfing, we're thinking about golfing, and when we're golfing, we're thinking about work. So we
Oh, no.
typically try and go like twice a month, although we haven't, like, we're crazy busy right now. So I
Yeah.
haven't golfed since September.
Yeah.
But the
Awesome.
goal is twice. But again, it has to be in the morning time and got to be done by like 10, 11 o'clock, and then head straight to the office. It's just
Right.
hard to find time now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to ask you that here in a second, but let's finish up the family talk really quick. What is
Yep.
it? What is your best tip of advice for somebody that's struggling with their wife and does door to door, is an entrepreneur, top 1% sales professional? What's your tip? What's your tip of advice? Struggling in a marriage.
I think just having a consistent schedule. I think that's where, like, and I think one thing they struggle too is the ups and downs sometimes with commission. Like us as salespeople, we can handle that emotionally.
Sure.
Sometimes the spouses can't, even though the money's really good. But like, if you don't have a sale or an install for a couple of weeks, you're getting zero money, right? And like, you might know that, like, hey, I got some good money coming in, but your spouse might not know that. So I think communication is key, obviously, which is definitely something I need to improve with my wife. Sometimes my wife learns lots of stuff from Jake's wife because he tells her more than I do sometimes. And she's like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, oh, I didn't tell you that? I thought I told you that. She's like, no, you didn't tell me that. But if you have a consistent schedule, then she knows when you need to go, and then she knows when you need to get home, and she knows that, like, hey, you can't go. Now, one of our best advisors, or our setters, dude's over 50 years old. He knocks from 10:30 to 5 o'clock every day, right? So, I teach our guys, like, hey, prime time 4:30 to dark, or 4:30 to 8. Like, that's the best time to knock. Not everybody can have that schedule, though. Like, that was my schedule with one kid, but as a kid I was with 5 kids now, I couldn't do that. Like, if I was only knocking right now, I'd have to have a different schedule. And not only would it help you as a sales rep, but having a consistent schedule will help your wife. Again, like, let's say you have football practice, or you're a soccer coach, right? Like, work every Sunday. Like, shout out to Casey Baugh, homeboy posts a picture every Sunday planning, right? And just planning out your week together. It's like, hey, here's when I'm going to be knocking. Obviously, you can't plan out exactly when you're going to have appointments, but you can tell them, hey, tomorrow, here's my appointment times. I'll be home at this time. I need to be gone at this time. Because then they can know, like, hey, when can you help maybe pick up the kids, or can you take them to school, or can you take them to dance, or whatever it is. But the other tricky part is, because you set your own schedule, whether it's friends or family thing, like, oh, you can just do whatever you want. If it's 3 o'clock, hey, let's go see a movie, or hey, like, can you go do this for me? It's like, no, I can't. Like, I'm working. So just having that, like, again, if you had a 9 to 5 job, you couldn't just up and leave at 3 o'clock and go early. Maybe you can sometimes, but in general, you probably can't, right?
Right.
So, if you were your own boss, would you fire yourself last week? Just have a consistent schedule of being on the doors and setting the appointments. Like, I never set appointments early in the morning because that was my family time, and I never set appointments between like 4:30 to 7 o'clock because that was my sacred knocking time. Now, it doesn't mean I wasn't knocking at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. If I didn't have an appointment in the early morning, I was knocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, to answer your question, just having a consistent schedule throughout the whole week, and that's easier on them and you, because, like, if someone has a 9 to 5 job, it's easy. Like, yeah, you leave at 8:30, you get home at 5:30, 6 o'clock. That's easy. Whereas sometimes it's not so simple. Sometimes, like, it is different hours sometimes, and it could be like, hey, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is the same schedule. Tuesday, Thursday is the same schedule, and here's Saturday's schedule. Right? It doesn't have to be the same exact schedule every single day.
Yeah.
But in general, try to have a consistent schedule. And that just sets expectations. It's all about expectations. That's why, a customer that expects to take 6 months to get installed, if you tell them 6 months and it takes 5, they're gonna be super happy. But if you tell someone it takes 3 and it takes 5, they're gonna be pissed. You said it 3 months and you said it took 5, right? Or if you told them 30 days and it takes 60 days, they're gonna be pissed. So just same with the family time. It's like, it's all about expectations and making sure you guys are on the same page and communicating. Another thing too is like if you're doing door to door, you're probably pretty ambitious, right? You're probably pretty competitive already, and you want to be successful because you've chosen this career path. Now your spouse may or may not be that ambitious, but like, figure out what's important to them. Like, what do they want to accomplish, and figure out what can we do with our money, right? Like, it's not just you, it's not just your money. If you're married, it's your money. Like, we have a joint bank account. It's not my money. So we spend it together, make decisions together, and so short, simple answer is communication and consistent schedule.
Yeah, I think guys, I appreciate for that answer. Thank you, by the way. That helps me out a lot. I think that is the biggest, one of the biggest issues we have in all of entrepreneur roles. Not even just door to door, but people are just not, like the Jordan Peterson says, make a damn schedule, right? It's like, dude,
Yeah,
people are they're just not making a schedule. They're just not.
Yeah, he's got great advice when it comes to being a man, comes to being married. Like, I like his content.
Yeah, dude, he's outstanding. He's going to be at Door to Door conference this year, so I'm really excited to see him there. And I was supposed to go see him last year, but the event got canceled, and he'll be coming to Houston actually here, so I'm going to go see him a few times. I mean, I read a lot of his content and watch a lot of his content every day, a lot actually. So, all right, man. This has been an outstanding. Dude, I can just keep on going, bro. I've got so much to ask you, and I got through most of it, but there's a lot on here that I want to go through. I'm gonna have to have you back on. This has been an absolutely blast, Jordan. I really appreciate your time. Any final words for the listeners?
Knock a shitload of doors. That's how many doors you got to knock. And treat your customers with respect. Treat them well. Give them 5-star service. Again, you'll get lots of referrals. I never got referrals on alarms. With solar, I got half my business came from referrals because, I sold them. I always went back a second time to review the designs and next steps. I always went to the install, and I always went back and turned the system on for them. So they never forgot me because, there was that many points of contact where if you just sell the deal and peace out, you might get some, but they're not going to remember you. Solar is not sexy. It's not about the solar. It's about the experience that you give them, right? I don't do it anymore, but when I had more time, I'd send them cookies or brownies afterwards saying thanks for your business with the card, which I should still do. Send a thank you card to everybody you meet with, handwritten. I have a stack of thank you cards next to my desk.
Yep.
So you meet with 2 people, just send a quick thank you card. If they're meeting with other companies, and it's coming down to like you and them, like, that could make the difference. It's something super simple.
Even if you're more expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, you get what you pay for. Bradley has that saying, like, you can do it quick, you can do it fast, cheap, and good, right? Pick 2 of the 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just do the basics, man. Like, that's what makes people the best, is just sticking with the basics.
Hashtag Kobe Bryant, bro. Let's go. Right on, man. Where can I appreciate you being on? Where can people find you at? They want to know about Icon, maybe install with Icon.
Yeah,
where can we find you?
Icon Power's got Instagram, YouTube page. I got my own Instagram page, jbastian3, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the socials.
Awesome. We'll put them in the show notes below.
Happy to help, man. Like, anybody wants advice, like, even if you're not in the states that I'm in, like, happy to help anybody out that's struggling or reach out. So that's my why. Help as many people as I can to become millionaires from selling solar.
Improve lives, baby. Let's go. All right, Jordan, I really appreciate your time, dude. Thank you, man. God bless you, and hope you have a outstanding rest of your year.
Yeah. Thanks, Mikey. Likewise.
All right, bro. We'll talk to you later.